you by my nice fresh ivy.
For over 100 years, members of the McPeak family have travelled the world performing their music. But every Christmas they return home, and on one special night they gather to swap stories, songs and poems of the supernatural.
This next piece is called Anculan. It was written about the start of the 16th century. Anculan means a curl. It was a curl running from the front to the back of the head of the, say, the Wild Irish. But there were princes at that time in Ireland. Well, this concerns the peel. Well, the words of this other song will just tell you something about this Culan. There's a girl and she's in the pale, and her boyfriend has come from Ulster. The king had forbidden the men of O'Neill with the Culan adorned to cross o'er the pale. But Nora, being Irish, she said in her pride, if he wears not the Culan, I'll ne'er be his bride. Well, he defies authority and comes into the pale, and she was able to go the next day and see his head on a spike because they had executed him. This is Anculan.
Celtic legends are full of stories about spirits in the forest and even fairies in the blackthorn. And not far from here, at the start of the last century, a man of the cloth was said to have used a tree to capture a spirit. And some people believe that planting a tree can be used to bind you to the earth, even after death. Well, our story begins with a man called William who went to a remote part of Ireland and found something in the wood. Out in the country, William had found the only place to stay was a particular house along the coast. William wanted to catch up on some writing, but as he worked, he couldn't help but notice the wooden sculptures in the room, and the more he looked at them, the more he thought he could see faces deep in the wood. next day he decided to go for a walk, but just before he was leaving, he couldn't help but ask the landlord about the wooden carvings he had seen. When the landlord told him his grandfather had been the one who done the carvings, and even made some furniture from old wood found near the house. William tried to take his mind off what had happened, but as the day went on, he began to dread staying in the room. That night, he decided to ask the landlord about the history of the house. He eventually told him about a preacher who once lived in the house, who accused 3 women of being witches. He had the 3 women's bodies buried outside the house. Then the landlord told him that when the preacher had died, he had left word that he was to be buried in the same grave as the 3 women, and a tree was to be planted on their grave. And although the tree stood for many, many years, one day it was struck by lightning. And that's when his grandfather used the wood to make lots of things around the house, because he didn't believe there could be such a thing as a haunted tree. But William began to think otherwise. William woke the landlord and asked him to come up and explain what was happening. Well, the landlord couldn't see anything wrong, but William still wasn't happy and asked if it bothered him that the wood from the tree came from the witch's grave. Oh no, said the landlord, because those women were innocent. And he explained that after the preacher's death, they found out a local man had been the cause of the problem that the women were accused of. And so if any soul was trapped by the tree, it could only be the preacher's. And he had to admit that a soul that causes misery like that never rests easy. William said he would be leaving in the morning, but he was so uncomfortable, he went down the stairs to wait till morning. William was just about to leave when he realised he had left something behind. The landlord went up the stairs to look for William, since he never saw him leave, yet there was no sign of him. But if you look into the old twisted wardrobe wood, you can see faces in the grain, and one of them is supposed to look just like William. But there is another face no one ever wants to see, and it is supposed to be the face of the preacher.